They say that success is a poor teacher. And I'm worried that we're taking some wrong lessons from Tuesday's tremendous election victory. Obviously, we all know Mamdani won in New York. I'm excited about that. I don't live in New York, but if I did, I would have definitely voted for him. And Democrats also swept every other major election on the ballot. Everything that pundits were keeping track of, Democrats won all 18 of the issues on the ballot in different states. And that's tremendous. This is really, really good news. But again, success is sometimes a poor teacher. And I'm already seeing some people drawing some really wrong conclusions from this. And I'm worried if we don't address those, we're going to have a worse election result next time. And first I want to talk about Mamdani. Because truthfully, again, Mamdani, tremendous politician, and I'm excited that he won. There's something that happened in MAGA after Trump won that I don't want us to repeat because it led to a big problem. And that is that Trump did so well that a lot of people said, well, I'm just going to be the next Donald Trump. And you know what happened to all those people? They all lost, except in very safe red seats. And to see why this is and why this might apply to the Democrats if we're not careful, we have to ask ourselves why Trump did better than expected in all of his races. All three races that Donald Trump competed in, he did better than expected. Trump is charismatic to a certain kind of person. He's not charismatic to me. I watch him speak and I think he looks like a total idiot. But to some people, he's extremely charismatic. And importantly, he comes across as authentic. And the reason he seems authentic is because he says risky things. Therefore, everybody says, well, he's saying what's on his mind. At least I know what he's thinking, right? At least he's being honest with me, even though he's not honest. He lies all the time. But he says things that no other politician would be willing to say, which most other politicians would be scared would be career suicide if they said them. And so people see that and they say, this guy truly doesn't give a crap what the media is going to think. He's willing to speak to me. And Mamdani has exactly the same effect for the opposite reasons, right? I'm not saying that ethically or politically or policy-wise they're at all similar. They do have this one thing in common, which is that they are seen as authentic because they say things that no other politician is willing to say. Everyone else is too scared to. And the problem with running and modeling yourself after one of these people and saying, I'm the Mamdani of Minneapolis. This one guy, I think his name's Fatah or something, ran that way in Minneapolis and he lost. Katie Wilson in Seattle ran that way and appears to be losing. The votes are still being counted. But so far she's behind. And the problem with this is that you, first off, immediately lose that authenticity bonus. Because now you're not saying things that no other politician is willing to say. Now you're saying the exact same thing that worked for somebody else. You don't look authentic, you look like a copycat. So that's the first problem, is if you just copy another successful politician, you no longer look like you're yourself. You look like you're a guy in a suit who, okay, sure, you might be saying democratic socialist things, or you might be saying MAGA things, or you might be saying whatever that previously was outside the mainstream, but now you're just a copycat. You lose that bonus at the same time that you're still taking a hit with the corporate media and with corporate donors and things like that, because the things you're saying still are things that corporations don't like. Keep in mind that even though a lot of corporations supported Donald Trump, this last election, previously, they were really reticent to, in both his first time running and in 2020, because a lot of the things that Donald Trump favored, like restricting immigration and slapping tariffs on people, were things that corporations actually hated and the media actually hated. And so when everybody else ran on those exact same things, but they no longer seemed authentic or charismatic, then they lost those corporate donors and they also lost credibility with the people. So we need to keep in mind that Mamdani won, but at least 2 other candidates this cycle who are trying to model themselves after Mamdani lost or appear to have lost. Again, the votes are still being counted in the case of Seattle. And this is really important for us to understand because I'm already seeing people say Mamdani's win proves that democratic socialism is so popular it'll just overcome all obstacles. And I wish that were true, but I really don't think it is. I really don't think it is. There are some democratic socialist policies which are very popular, and there are some which are very unpopular. And it matters a lot that the corporate media hates them. It matters a lot that corporate donors are going to run attack ad after attack ad after attack ad. And even though that's not fair, it still is a real thing. And I see people making this mistake where they're saying, well, that's just not fair, so we should just straight up ignore it. No, 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 no. If we're trying to win an election, we need to understand what we're up against. We can't just wish it away and say, since I wish people were playing fair, since I wish there were no money in politics, therefore we should just ignore money in politics. Do that at your own peril, because Mamdani didn't. He knew there were going to be a lot of attack ads against him, and because of that, he spent a lot of time himself going on TV, going onto hostile programs even, in order to address the people who would be persuaded by those ads. And he invested a lot of time getting his door-knocking operation up because he knew that if we talk to every single person in New York, they're going to be a little bit less susceptible. Even in the case of Mamdani, who did win, and I'm excited that he won, and I think he's a great future leader within the Democratic Party. Obviously, we can't run him for president because I don't think he was born a citizen, and that's a requirement. But he's going to be a great future leader in the Democratic Party. But even in New York where he won, and again, the other 2 candidates who were trying to be the Mamdani of some other city, they lost. But even in New York where Mamdani did win, it was kind of a close election. New York has ranked choice voting, which confuses things a little bit because, it was Mamdani 50% versus Cuomo 42%. And that's a pretty decent lead. But if it had been a 1v1 election, it would have been basically 50-50. That's really close. And in fact, maybe it would have even been worse than that. Maybe Mamdani would have lost because if it had been a 1v1 election, you wouldn't have had Curtis Sliwa and Cuomo sniping at each other the whole time, both from the right, sort of. I mean, Cuomo said he was a Democrat, and then he said he was an independent, but we all know that he's really a stealth Republican, and he's done a lot of things to prove that. But my point is that there's been other cases. Ranked choice voting kind of makes things a little bit weird. I mean, in Alaska, the 2 right-wing candidates, both of which were MAGA, were sniping at each other so much in, I think it was the 2020 election, that the left-wing, the center-left candidate, ended up winning because both the other 2 groups hated each other so much. I mean, it's a narcissism of small differences kind of thing, right? And so I honestly think there is a non-zero chance that if Sliwa actually had dropped out the way that Donald Trump wanted him to, Mamdani would have lost because it was already kind of close. And he did a lot of things. Again, I want to give Mamdani credit. I don't want to come across as just saying, oh, Mamdani sucked. He didn't. Mamdani did like everything right. But that's exactly my point, is even with a very talented politician like Mamdani, who inspires a ton of loyalty, who looks good on TV, who debates well, who got all these door knockers out and talking to people, even with that, it is hard to go up against big corporate media. It is hard to go up against a ton of attack ads from wealthy people. Some people are really charismatic. People like Mamdani, like AOC, those people run ahead of the Dem nominees and they do great. And we should support those people absolutely. And we should also support them policy-wise because they support a lot of good policies that are good for ordinary working people. And there are other politicians who still support really good policies, but they will lose because they're not charismatic enough. And if we're not clear-eyed about that, then we're going to be just like the Mamdani of Minneapolis and Seattle who just appear to have lost. And I don't want that for us. We need to win.